जापानमा हेल्थ क्याम्पहरू गऱ्यौँ हेल्थ क्याम्पमा स्पेशली हेल्थ काउन्सिलिङ क्याम्प भनेको त्यहाँ अब नेपालमा जस्तो हेल्थ क्याम्प भनेर औषधि बाँड्ने त्यस्तो गर्न मिल्दैन हेल्थ काउन्सिलिङ सामान्य चेकअप होइन हामीसँग इसिजी मसिन हुन्थ्यो इको मसिन हुन्थ्यो अनि अनि अरू सामान्य क्लिनिकल चेकअपहरू हुन्छ बिपीको त्यसमा अनि हामी चाहिँ नेपाली डक्टर्सहरू हामी केही नेपाली डक्टर अनि केही जापानिज डक्टरहरूसँग मिलेर देयर इज नट अ सस्टेनेबल वे टु प्रोभाइड हेल्थ एक्सेस डेफिनेटली होइन तर पनि एटलिस्ट केही नहुनुभन्दा केही हुनु नै बेटर भनेर स्पेसली हामीले भल्नरेबल पपुलेसनहरू खोज्यौँ कुक्सहरू अर्को एउटा पपुलेसनको मैले कुरा गरेको छैन 7% जति हाम्रो स्याम्पलको दे आर रिफ्युजी एप्लिकेन्ट्स मोर करेक्टली सेङ फेक रिफ्युजी एप्लिकेन्ट्स भन्छु मैले चाहिँ भन्नुको भिसा एक्सटेन्ड गर्नको लागि फेक रिफ्युजी फाइल गरेर बस्नेहरू हुनुहुन्छ तिनीहरू चाहिँ भेरी भल्नरेबल पपुलेसन है जस्तो यो तोचिकी भन्ने यो प्रिफेक्चरमा गरेको क्याम्पको फोटोहरू हामीले डेन्टल क्याम्पहरू थियो अरू नेपाली जापानिज साथीहरू हुनुहुन्थ्यो है अनि वी डिड अल्सो इन टोकियोमा एउटा एभरेज इन्टरनेसनल स्कुल भन्ने एउटा नेपालीहरूको स्कुल छ उनीहरूले हामीलाई भेन्यू प्रोभाइड गर्छ अनि एभ्री इयर हामीले त्यहाँ क्याम्प गर्छौँ अनि यो यु क्यान सी एक्सरे बस पोर्टेबल मोबाइल एक्सरे बस त्यो चाहिँ टोकियो मेट्रोपोलिटन गभर्मेन्टको सहकार्यमा टोकियो मेट्रोपोलिटन गभर्मेन्टले हामीलाई प्रोभाइड गर्छ उनीहरूले एक्सरे टेक्निसियन्सहरू पनि प्रोभाइड गर्छ सहकार्यमा हामीले 2017 देखि रेगुलरली गरेर 17, 18, 19 मा गरिसक्यो हामीले अनि त्यसै गरी हेल्थ अवेरनेस सेमिनारहरू पनि गर्छौँ बेला बेलामा हाम्रो आशा भनेर एउटा हामीसँग एउटा एनपिओ दर्ता गरेका छौँ टोकियोमा त्यसमा चाहिँ नेपालीज र जापानिज प्रोफेसनल्सहरू हुनुहुन्छ अनि त्यो संस्थाको अन्तर्गत रहेर हामीले जस्तो यो अब तपाईँको दन्त चिकित्सा सम्बन्धी दाँत कसरी अब प्रोटेक्ट गर्नेदेखि लिएर मुटु सम्बन्धी मुटु रोगको बारेमा होइन अनि यो डाक्टर विशालको यो क्यान्सरको सम्बन्धी यी कुराहरूमा हामीले सचेतना गोष्ठीहरू गर्छौँ अनि त्यसै गरी टोकियो बाहेक अरू थ्याङ्क यू अरू सहरहरू जस्तो फुकुओका भनेको चाहिँ साउथ इन्डमा पर्छ जापानको त्यहाँ चाहिँ धेरै विद्यार्थीहरू हुनुहुन्छ है धेरै नेपाली विद्यार्थीहरू तपाईँ त्यो फुकुओका जानुभयो अथवा त्यहाँ फुकुओका हाकाता भन्छ स्टेसन मेन स्टेसन त्यहाँ म पनि असम पहिलोपटक जाँदा यो 2017 मा गएको थिएँ असम परेको थिएँ म भनेको त्यहाँ त्यति धेरै विद्यार्थी होला पनि लागेको थिएन त्यहाँ चाहिँ तपाईँको प्रत्येक कन्भेन्स स्टोरमा एउटा न एउटा नेपाली विद्यार्थी भेट हुने त्यहाँ कति कन्भेन्स स्टोरहरू छ एउटा न एउटा नेपाली विद्यार्थी भेट हुने त्यति धेरै अनि त्यहाँ चाहिँ हामीले त्यहाँ हुन्छ नि त्यहाँको लोकल फेस्टिभलहरूमा नेपाली फेस्टिभलहरूमा हेल्थ क्याम्पहरू गर्थ्यौँ हामीले अनि त्यो बाहेक अब यो दिस अ फ्लायर सो इट वाज सपोर्टेड बाई एनआरएनए अल्सो दे अल्सो सपोर्ट अस फाइनेन्सियली टु अर्गनाइज एन्ड अर्गनाइज बाई आशा द एनपिओ वी रजिस्टर्ड त्यसै ओसाकामा गरेको यो हेल्थ क्याम्प भयो अनि अदर एक्टिभिटी हेल्थ क्याम्प बाहेक अरू एक्टिभिटी के गरेको थियौँ भने हामीले मेन्टल हेल्थको एउटा क्याम्पेन पनि गरिरहेको थियौँ अहिले पनि कन्टिन्यू छ म त्यता आएँ हाम्रो मेन्टल हेल्थको काउन्सिलर हुनुहुन्छ अनि with collaboration with NRNA we submitted a report to embassy there so that we can intervene in the mental health part but progress we don't know yet हामीले त्यो कुराहरूमा एडभोकेसीमा पनि काम गरिरहेको छु भन्नु खोजेको मैले अनि अर्को एउटा होइन पनि भने हामीले चाहिँ एउटा यस्तो सोसियल मिडियाको थ्रुबाट पनि हेल्प गर्ने हिसाबले जस्तो नेप्लिज हेल्थ इन जापान भन्ने एउटा फेसबुक पेज छ त्यसमा चाहिँ धेरै जापानमा बस्ने नेपाली विद्यार्थी भाइहरू कुकहरू जोडिनु भएको छ उहाँले केही समस्या पऱ्यो भने हामीलाई फोन गर्नुहुन्छ मेसेज गर्नुहुन्छ हामीले चाहिँ कुन हस्पिटल जाँदा ठिक हुन्छ कुन हस्पिटलमा चाहिँ नेपाली इन्टरप्रेटर पाइन सक्छ अथवा कुन हस्पिटलमा एटलिस्ट इङ्ग्लिस इन्टरप्रेटर भने इङ्ग्लिस बुझ्नेहरूलाई इङ्ग्लिस भने त्यस्तो खालको सल्लाह दिन्छ अनि कुनै कुनैलाई जस्तो मैले भने नि स्ट्रेस रिलेटेड डिसअर्डर हुन्छ डक्टरले के औषध दिएन भन्ने हुन्छ त्यस्तोहरूलाई काउन्सिलिङ गर्ने सामान्य काउन्सिलिङ गर्नेदेखि लिएर त्यस्तो कुराहरू चाहिँ हामीले गरिरहेछौँ सोसल एडभोकेसी प्लस इन्टरभेन्सन पनि भयो है अनि some pictures of our activities in Nepalese and Japanese newspapers है यो चाहिँ मैले स्किप गरेँ हाम्रो टाइम पनि भक्यो है है त थ्याङ्क यू for 4 years 5 years 6 years so those health insurance premiums they pile up so as a back payment. So if they want to go to hospital and want to get treated in a subsidized manner, they have to pay all the back payments. That's why they are reluctant to go to hospital. That's one mechanism. So I've especially I remember I was doing field work in Osaka and I found I went to some restaurants there and talked to Nepalese cook and like they have a lot of most of them have this backache problem because they have to stand a lot of time and they have never done the X-ray, MRI, whatever. And even they have not ever checked their blood pressure also. I checked their blood pressure, I found hypertension, all those things. So when I asked them, why didn't you go to a hospital, they were saying all this in health insurance, they have not paid and everything. And they said that, okay, Dr. Shahab, म अर्को वर्ष चाहिँ नेपाल जाँदैछु, अब 6 वर्षपछि नेपाल जाँदैछु, त्यो बेला चाहिँ अब म चाहिँ आफ्नो नेपालमा सबै होल बडी चेकअप गराउँछु. Let's see the reality. You are staying in a country like Japan where you have the state-of-art health facilities, cutting edge technology, everything is there, but to do your health checkup you are going back to Nepal. It's disappointing, right? So it's all because we have poor access to healthcare because of certain factors. Not only the health insurance, as I show you, the enabling factor was very important, language, interpretation, and other factors. And we found we try to explore the reason behind why they are not paying health insurance. Most of them, they were talking about they have like negative perception on costs and benefits of the health insurance. Most of them they are not aware about what are the benefits of health insurance. जस्तो कोही 10-12 सोध्यो भने किन नतिर्नु भएको, तिरेर के हुन्छ र यो मैले यो वर्ष तिरे म बिरामी भएन भने त मेरो त्यत्रो पैसा खेर गयो नि. We don't have that health insurance culture. किन भन्दाखेरि in Nepal man health insurance framework policy was started in 2013. They make a policy framework in 2013, and since 2015 there is the social health security kukura airasa. It has yet to be implemented. So basically in Nepal out of pocket payment is the major source of health financing, right? So Nepalese migrants who went to Japan, they were never exposed to this health insurance culture. So that maybe that kind of lack of exposure have resulted in this irregular health insurance payment. And another part is language interpretation. As I said, almost all doctors they use Japanese. They don't even only few doctors they know English. In Japan, Japanese language is the method of communication with patients. So the problem is, even if most of the students they go to Japan to study as a Japanese language student, their Japanese language ability is not that good. As I said, they are educational migrants in book, but in reality, generally, if you go to the Japanese Language Institute to observe how students are studying, generally in morning class, I used to go. 50% of students are sleeping in the class. Like sleeping in the class is very normal in Japan. के हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि विद्यार्थीहरु चाहिँ अब मैले भने 28 घण्टा भन्दा बढी काम गर्न पाउँदैन. तर 28 घण्टा काम गरेर you will never survive in Tokyo. Like costly place like Tokyo. Monthly rent मात्र minimum 50,000 yen हुन्छ. हैन? So they have to do 28. So धेरै स्टुडेन्टहरु चाहिँ राति काम गर्नुहुन्छ. नाइट ड्युटी गर्नुहुन्छ. एनर्जी ड्रिंक खाएर, कफी खाएर है. त्यो एनर्जी ड्रिंकको पनि I mean like lot of health problems आइराछ. राति काम गर्नुहुन्छ नि बिहान क्लास जाने भनेको सुत्नको लागि बिहान. अनि क्लास गएन भने के हुन्छ एटलिस्ट 90% एटेन्डेन्स हुनुपर्छ. 90% एटेन्डेन्स भएन भने चाहिँ अर्को वर्ष भिसा पाउँदैन. सो अझ कुरा गर्दै थिएँ नि भनेको द्याट्स द रिजन है. अनि ल्याङ्ग्वेज भए तापनि कस्तो हुँदो रहेछ भन्दाखेरि इभन इफ यु हेभ सम बेसिक नलेज अफ जापानिज ल्याङ्ग्वेज while you talking about medical care, health care, it's a different ballgame. तपाईले बेसिक जापानिज बोलचालको जिन्दगी आई मिन ट्रेनमा बोल्ने, पसलमा बोल्ने, सामान्य बोल्ने जान्दैमा तपाईले आफ्नो हेल्थको कुरा, मेडिकल सिम्पटम चाहिँ जापानिजमा भन्न अथवा उले भनेको तपाईले बुझ्ने डिफरेन्ट बलगेम. जस्तो फर एक्जाम्पल हामी नेपालीमा जस्तो कस्तो हुन्छ भन्दा नेपालमा हामी जब हस्पिटलमा बिरामीले कसरी सिम्पटम भन्छ इज भेरी टिपिकल तरिकाले भन्छ. डाक्टर साहब मेरो टाउकोदेखि तलसम्म रन्केर आउँछ, गानो जान्छ, के अरे झमझमाउँछ खुट्टासम्म. यो भनेको यो तरिकाले पेसेन्टले कम्युनिकेट गरेर हुन्छ नेपालमा है. अनि त्यही कुरा जातिले भन्ने त कुरा आउँदै आएन, तर पनि त्यही सिमिलर कुरा भन्दा पनि गाह्रो नै हुन्छ है. त्यही भएर अलिअलि जापानिज जाने पनि डिल गर्न गाह्रो हुन्छ. त्यही भएर हामीले चाहिँ आजकल के भनिरहेको छौँ भन्दाखेरि नट ओन्ली द प्रोफेसनल इन्टरप्रेटर, वी निड कल्चरल मेडिएटर्स बिट्विन डक्टर्स एन्ड पेसेन्ट है. अनि यसमा अर्को कुरा एउटा जोड्न मन लाग्यो. जापानमा देयर इज अ बिग मेन्टल हेल्थ प्रब्लम. मेन्टल हेल्थको पार्ट चाहिँ मैले आज एक्सप्लेन गर्न, द्याट इज अनदर पार्ट अफ माई थेसिस. मेन्टल हेल्थ प्रब्लम चाहिँ कस्तो हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि स्पेसली यो इन्डियन सब कन्टिनेन्टको हामीहरू साउथ एसियामा रहनेहरूको हामीले मेन्टल हेल्थ आफूलाई भएको कुनै डिप्रेसन, एन्जाइटीलाई के अरे इन्टरप्रेट अथवा मेनिफेस्ट गर्ने तरिका इज भेरी डिफ्रेन्ट देन वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड अर जापान. जस्तो हामी कहाँ आउने मान्छेहरू मेन्टल हेल्थको पेसेन्टहरूले कसरी सिम्टम भन्नुहुन्छ भन्दाखेरि डाक्टर साहब मेरो टाउको दुखिरहेको छ दुखी गर्छ जे गर्दा पनि दुख्छ भेग सिम्टम हुन्छ पुरै शरीर दुख्छ पुरै शरीर झन्झनाउँछ नसाहरू दुख्छ यसरी मेन्टल हेल्थको सिम्टम भन्नुहुन्छ कसैले जस्तो वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड अथवा अरू ठाउँमा जस्तो म निराश छु यस्तो यस्तो खालको सिम्टम्सहरू भन्दैन हामी चाहिँ मेडिकल भाषामा सोमाटाइजेसन अफ द मेन्टल हेल्थ सिम्टम भन्छौँ होइन बडीले सिम्टम्सहरू त्यसरी भन्नुहुन्छ अब त्यहीको जापानमा चाहिँ हामीले के देखिरहेको छ भने उहाँहरू बिरामी हुनुहुन्छ हस्पिटलमा जानुहुन्छ जापानिज डक्टरलाई जापानिजमा भन्नुहुन्छ यस्तो यस्तो यो पेट दुखेको टाउको दुखेको अनि जापानिज डक्टरले पेट पनि चेक गर्छ सबै चेक गर्छ तँलाई ठिक छ तँलाई के भएको छैन भनेर पठाइन्छ है जापानिज डक्टरले अनि हामीले चाहिँ अनि हामी कोही नेपाली डक्टरहरू हुनुहुन्छ हाम्रो एउटा ग्रुप छ टोकियोमा अथवा ओसाकामा अनि हामीले एउटा सानो हटलाइन जस्तो पनि चलाइरहेको छौँ क्या यो म पछि एक्सप्लेन गर्छु होला अनि उहाँले हामीलाई फोन गर्नुहुन्छ डाक्टर साहब म हस्पिटलमा गएँ पेट दुखे टाउको दुखेको थियो गर भने त्यहाँ डक्टरले चेक गर्यो के औषधि पनि दिएन भनेर आत्तिएर हामीले अनि हामीले चाहिँ अब आफ्टर टकिङ फर फ्यु मिनट्स वी अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड दिस इज मोर अबाउट गोइङ टु मेन्टल हेल्थ साइड स्ट्रेस रिलेटेड डिसअर्डर्स सो मेनी पिपल हेभ स्ट्रेस रिलेटेड डिसअर्डर्स इन जापान है त्यसमा एक्सट्रिम कन्डिसन भनेको सुसाइडको केसहरू पनि बढिरहेछ एभ्री इयर 3-4वटा केसेसहरू वी आर फाइन है Okay, so talking about the strength of the study, I think I should. This is the pioneer study conducted on health issues of Nepalese migrants in Japan. So this is one of the study, and this is a study where we one of the strength of the study. This is the first study to examine the association of factors with access to healthcare when 3 major key factors are combined. Such a kind of analysis may help the migrants globally to take individual and collective actions step by step. Talking about the limitation of this study, and talking about outcome variable. Around 70% of the migrants say that they don't have better perceived access to healthcare. Around 70%. And lastly, for their unrealized access, around 31% of the migrants say that they did not visit the health facility in the past year, even if they need to, even if they were sick. Around 32% have that unrealized access. Now, after this, I will explain about the model 1. So, this is a regression analysis, multivariable regression analysis. The factors I have shown are only the... Japan is being increasingly popular as a destination for Nepalese migrants. And during last 7 years, there has been increased by 3-folds of Nepalese population. Nepalese are the number 1 South Asian population community in Japan. Total अरू सबै कन्ट्रीको गर्ने हो भने Nepalese population ranks in number 6 है from such a small country in terms of because Japan आफैमा त्यति धेरै migrants छैन तर त्यो मा चाहिँ number 6 मा पर्नुहुन्छ र एउटा interesting fact Japan is only the country except Nepal where Nepalese are more than Indians right Indians are everywhere Japan is the only country where except Nepal, Nepalese are more than Indians. But Nepalese are the biggest South Asian community in Japan. Most of the Nepalese migrants, they are the big population is of language students. भाषा विद्यार्थीहरूको रूपमा आउनुहुन्छ र भाषा विद्यार्थी प्लस भोकेसनल स्कुल भाषा विद्यालय सकेपछि 2 वर्षको भाषा विद्यालय सकेपछि यो भोकेसनल स्कुलमा जोइन गर्नुहुन्छ अर्को पपुलेसन भनेको कुक्स इन इन्डो नेपाली रेस्टुरेन्ट्स तपाई जापानको विभिन्न जुनसुकै अहिलेको अलमोस्ट देयर आर 47 प्रिफेक्चर्स इन जापान अहिले प्रत्येक प्रिफेक्चरमा प्रत्येक जसो प्रिफेक्चरमा यु क्यान फाइन्ड इन्डो नेपाली रेस्टुरेन्ट्स है इन्डो नेपाली रेस्टुरेन्ट्स रन बाइ नेपाली पिपल Nepali owner and Nepali cooks है अनि अर्को पपुलेसन भनेको डिपेन्डेन्स अफ दोज कुक्स भनेको वाइफ्स चिल्ड्रेनहरू अफ दोज कुक्स इज अनदर बिग पपुलेसन इन जापान अनि यसमा पनि जुन भाषा विद्यार्थीहरूको अघि हल्का देवेन्द्रजीसँग पनि कुरा भइरहेको थियो जुन भाषा विद्यार्थी भनेर आउनुहुन्छ दिस बिग पपुलेसन Nepalese migrants they seem like they are educational migrants but basically they are economic migrants in book they are educational migrants in reality they are economic migrants भनेको पढाइ भन्दा पनि कमाउनका लागि जाने यो उद्देश्य चाहिँ हैन बढी छ त्यसले गर्दा अब त्यहाँ जस्तो विद्यार्थीले हप्तामा 28 घण्टा काम गर्न पाउँछ है जनरली तर I will say more than 90% of the students, not only Nepalese, or the Vietnamese, Indonesian, Chinese, they work more than 50 hours per day, for 50 hours per week. Right? It's Japan ko context ma is illegal. तर पनि मैले भनेको चाहिँ they are in book they are educational migrants, but in reality they are economic migrants, right? And in terms of research, little is known about their access to healthcare of all those Nepalese migrants, right? Now, talking about the justification of my study, as I already mentioned, Asia there is very less study among migrants, and most of the studies are in Western world. And the differences in socio-cultural environment between Asia and Western world may reveal different dynamics of factors associated with access to healthcare. So that is one justification of conducting this research. Another is most of the studies done in Western world also among migrants in terms of access to healthcare, they have analyzed several factors, but they are analyzed in individual way. There is no such combination analysis. So in my study, what I did is I did some kind of combination analysis. So associations with access to healthcare among the migrants when such factors are combined is globally not known. Such kind of combination analysis may reveal the factors which can play more important role compared to others. So कुन factorले चाहिँ बढी रोल प्ले गर्छ भन्ने निष्कर्ष निकाल्नको लागि त्यो combination analysis help गर्छ. Therefore, the objectives of my research was to examine the factors associated with access to healthcare among Nepalese migrants in Japan based on Andersen's model. That is number one objective. Number two objective was to examine the association of those factors with their access to healthcare when several key factors are combined. Now, going to the method section, यो picture saying every year Nepal festival हुन्छ टोकियोमा है अरु प्रिफेक्चरमा पनि हुन्छ टोकियोमा चाहिँ एभ्री इयर हुन्छ त्यो यो चाहिँ मैले 2013 मा लिएको पिक्चर है. So now talking about the study area and study design, this study was a cross sectional study, and for study area we conducted this study in 10 prefectures of Japan. So in Japan मा generally 47 वटा prefectures छ, त्यसमध्ये 10 वटा prefectures मा हामीले स्टडी गर्यौं. त्यो स्टडी prefectures how we selected is number of Nepalese population कहाँ बढी छ त भने चाहिँ टप 10 हाईएस्ट एरियामा गर्यौं. सबभन्दा बढी नेप्लिस पपुलेसन भनेको टोकियोमा छ, क्यापिटल है. टोकियो पछि फुकुओका भनेको चाहिँ साउथतिर, अलि साउथतिर तलतिर, अनि टोकियो, फुकुओका, ओसाका, गुन्मा, तोचिकी, ह्योगो, खानागावा, चिबा, आइची र साइतामा यो 10 वटा प्रिफेक्चरमा चाहिँ हामीले स्टडी एरिया फिक्स गर्यौं. Sampling अनि स्टडी यो टु रिक्रुट द माइग्रेन्ट्स, सो वी युज्ड अ कन्भिनियन्स स्याम्पलिङ मेथड. Because migrants are a hard to reach population, they are not general population. Migrants are hard to reach population, so we thought convenience sampling would be more feasible, and we did convenience sampling method in each study prefecture. So to recruit the migrants, first we identify the key informants in each prefecture. Key informants meaning we found out local community leaders in Nepalese community in each prefecture, and we contacted them, and through their contacts we could identify Nepalese studying in language schools, professional training schools, and we visited those schools, colleges, restaurants, and other work areas where we can meet Nepalese migrants to recruit our participants. So the criteria of recruiting the participants was is in the slide. So the inclusion criteria of the participants was being a Nepalese citizen, either male or female, is 18 to 60 years, residing in the study prefecture among the 10 study prefectures, in one of the study prefectures, and those who have stayed continuously or with interruption for at least 3 months in Japan, and who is willing to participate voluntarily in this study. One exclusion criteria we make was we exclude those participants who cannot read and write in Nepali language. Now talking about sample size, calculation of sample size was done using G-Power software, and we use a study from a previous study conducted among international students in Japan as a assumption to calculate the sample size. And our sample size calculation gave us 456 migrants, the minimum sample size. However, we distributed questionnaires to a total of 981 potential participants because of anticipation of the missing data and also non-response to our self-administered questionnaire, because in our questionnaire we also have some sensitive topics like mental health. So just to counteract that, we distributed our questionnaire to potential 981 participants. And it's the outcome variable, what we measure. Outcome variable is access to healthcare. So as I mentioned while talking about Andersen's model, access to healthcare we measure by two binary variables for each potential access and realized access. To measure potential access, we ask questions like if the migrants currently have proper access to doctor or health worker or not. That is for perceived access or potential access. For realized access, we ask them if in the past year they needed to see a doctor health worker for an illness condition but did not. Even if they were sick, they didn't attend the hospitals. So it's more like unrealized access rather than realized access. Right? So this kind of instrument has been previously used among the migrants in Central Asia. For the independent variables, we use certain socio-demographic characteristics like age, gender, occupation, employment, education status, and migration-related characteristics like the length of stay in Japan, their visa status, legal status, employment status, their language skill score, and their perceived social support. Perceived social support was measured through a scale called MSPSS. And for health and behavior-related characteristics, we asked questions about their alcohol use, about their sleep duration, and about the health insurance. Do they pay health insurance premium regularly or not? And also their need of Japanese language interpreter while visiting the hospital. Others like common mental health problems and self-rated health status. Data collection. For data collection, we use a self-administered questionnaire in Nepali language. Before our main study, we go for pre-testing for 40 participants, and based on our pre-testing, we did some amendments in our questionnaire and use for main survey. For the main survey, I along with 8 trained Nepalese assistants, we visited 10 prefectures and recruited the migrants. And the data collection was done from April to July 2016. For data analysis, we did 2 kind of analysis. First was this descriptive statistics for to know the socio-demographic, migration-related, and health and behavior characteristics. And the main analysis we did was the multivariable logistic regression analysis. So in this regression analysis, we used 2 statistical models. The first statistical model was to examine the factors associated with access to healthcare among the migrants. And in the second statistical model, after we found out the associated factors, we combine those factors and put those combined factors in the second regression model. So I'll be explaining while explaining the results section. So model 2 was to examine the association of factors when key predisposing, inability, and need factors are combined. And for the data analysis, we use the STATA version software for data analysis. Ethical consideration, ethical approval was obtained from the Research Ethics Committee of the University of Tokyo. All the migrants participated voluntarily, and we also obtained written informed consent. And migrants' identity were kept anonymous by using identification codes only. We don't use their names or other things. We just use ID codes to make them anonymous. Now, results section. And this photo is about educational seminar conducted in Tokyo for Nepalese students. Now, this flow chart shows how the flow of the questionnaires went. So, as I mentioned earlier, we distributed a total of 981 questionnaires to participants. Out of them, 765 questionnaires came back, and out of 765, 26 did not include any written consent. So we excluded them, and a huge number, 97 questionnaires, they had missing data. So it's a problem with self-administered questionnaires. So we have to exclude them. And for analysis, we use in final 642 questionnaire, like sample size of 642 migrants. Now, talking about the results section, let's see about the socio-demographic characteristics of the migrants. The mean age of the migrants was 28.3 years. More than 70% of the migrants were male. Talking about marital status, 53% of the migrants were unmarried. Now, migration-related characteristics, the mean length of stay in Japan was 3.9 years. The visa status, most of them were student visa status. That is 56.5%, followed by skilled labor or their dependents. Health and behavior-related characteristics, more than 50% of the migrants self-rated their health status as poor or fair. And talking about the health insurance premium payment, around 35% of the migrants said that they had not paid the health insurance premium for a year or more. So they are irregular payers. This is one of the very important variables I will be talking later. Talking about the need of language interpreter, around 70% of the migrants say that they need Japanese language interpreter during visit to health facility. Okay, so this is the more like socio-demographic characteristics. Now, talking about the common mental health problems, we also collected data on their depression, anxiety, and stress score. Around 24% of the migrants had scored more than 16. So 16 is the cutoff point in the depression to score yes or no. I mean, like if you score more than 16, that is that means they have depressive symptoms. So around 24% is a huge number. 24% of the migrants had depressive symptoms.